The wind howled across the open scrapyard, carrying the smell of rust and old oil. Broken machines lay scattered like the bones of dead giants. Tall towers of twisted metal rose high, their sharp edges cutting into the dim red sky. The air was heavy and cold, and the ground was covered with dust that had not moved in years. In the middle of all this ruin, there was something different at first glance. It looked like just another pile of discarded parts, a shape half hidden under sheets of metal lying still in the shadows. But if someone came closer, they would see it was not a machine at all. It was a woman, not a human woman, but an alien. Her skin was pale silver with faint blue lines that glowed softly, her hair thin and almost transparent, spread around her head like silk threads. Her eyes were half open, but there was no strength in them. She could not move her legs. She could barely lift her head. Her name was Lyra, though no one in the scrapyard knew it. She had once been part of a proud and powerful alien family, but that was before the accident, before the battle, before she became what they now called useless. Her family had brought her here in silence. They had placed her between the broken machines and the piles of scrap, and they had walked away. They did not look back. To them, she was already gone. She was a broken thing left among other broken things. The days passed slowly. The sky never changed, always the same deep red. The cold became sharper at night. Biting into her bones, she could not move to find food or water. She could only wait. She had stopped hoping for rescue long ago. Every sound in the scrapyard was either the wind or the creak of old metal. No footsteps, no voices, only silence, until today. Far away, on the edge of the scrapyard, someone was moving, a human. He moved carefully, stepping over old wires and rusted beams. His name was Alex. He was young, but his face carried the hard lines of someone who had seen too much. He was here for a reason, not for adventure, not for danger. He was a scavenger. His job was to find old parts, fix them, and sell them to survive. He knew the scrapyard well. He knew which paths to take and which piles to avoid. But he had never gone this deep before. Alex's boots crunched over the gravel. He stopped when he saw the strange shape ahead. It looked like a large piece of silver metal under a torn blanket. He thought it might be a valuable part. He stepped closer, then closer again. That was when he heard it. A sound so soft he almost missed it. A voice. It was weak, trembling, barely more than a whisper. Help. Alex froze. The sound came from the silver shape. It was not a machine. He pulled away the torn metal sheet and saw her, an alien woman lying still, her eyes half closed. For a moment, he did not know what to do. Humans and her kind were not friends. In fact, they had fought wars against each other. The law was clear. Humans were not supposed to help aliens. If the patrol found him with her, it would mean trouble. Big trouble. But there was something in her eyes. Something that stopped him from walking away. They were not the cold, proud eyes of the aliens he had heard about. They were tired, full of pain and fear. And something else, something like hope. Hope that he might be different from the rest. Alex looked around. The scrapyard was empty. Only the wind and the old machines surrounded them. Still, he felt like someone might be watching. He knelt down. Can you move? He asked. She shook her head slowly. Her voice was soft, each word a struggle. They left me, she whispered. My family left me here. Alex's chest felt heavy. He knew the scrapyard was where things came to die. Machines, ships, tools, and sometimes people. He had heard stories of criminals being thrown here, but never family abandoning one of their own. It didn't seem right. It didn't seem fair. The wind grew colder. Alex's instincts told him to leave, but something else, something deep inside, told him to stay. He didn't understand why. Maybe it was because she was alive when she shouldn't be. Maybe it was because she had asked for help when she could have stayed silent. Or maybe it was because he had been alone before, and he knew what it felt like. Alex stood up. He knew he could walk away right now and pretend he never saw her. No one would know, but he would know, and that would be worse than any trouble that patrol could bring. He took a deep breath. "All right," he said, his voice low but firm. "I'm going to get you out of here." Lyra's eyes widened slightly. It was the first time in a long time she had heard anyone speak to her with kindness. For the first time in days, she felt something warm in her chest. It was not food or water. It was hope. And in the silent scrapyard, under the red alien sky, a choice had been made, one that would change both their lives forever. Alex's hands were shaking slightly as he looked at the alien woman lying in front of him. He had found strange things in the scrapyard before: half-broken machines, lost tools, even abandoned drones still humming faintly. But never this. Never a living being left to die among rust and shadows. The wind tugged at his coat, carrying the distant hum of the alien patrol somewhere beyond the horizon. That sound always made his stomach tighten. He knew what it meant. They were out. They're searching. Scanning, making sure humans stayed where they were told. Helping an alien was not only forbidden, it was dangerous if they caught him. There would be no trial, no warning. He would simply disappear. The scrapyard itself would probably become his final home. Still, his eyes kept returning to her face. There was something fragile about the way her silver skin caught the light. Not the cold steel look of the alien soldiers he had seen in broadcasts. Her glow was faint, like moonlight behind clouds. Her lips were pale, and every breath looked like it might be her last. She did not look like an enemy. She looked lost. Alex crouched down again, this time closer. Her eyes opened a little more. They were a strange, deep blue. With a shimmer that seemed to shift like water, she tried to speak, but her voice cracked. He leaned in to hear. "I can't feel my legs," she whispered. Her voice carried a rhythm unlike human speech. But her words were clear. Alex felt a sharp tug in his chest. He knew paralysis could mean she wouldn't survive much longer without help. He glanced over his shoulder, scanning the scrapyard. The long shadows between piles of scrap felt like they were hiding eyes. The metallic groan of shifting junk made him tense. He had no idea how much time they had before someone came. "What happened to you?" he asked quietly. Her gaze dropped. "My own family," she said, her words breaking. "They didn't want me anymore." Alex frowned. Families argued, fought, even separated, but abandoning one of their own here. That was beyond cruel. "They left me here," she continued, her eyes glassy, "because I can't fight. I can't work. I'm broken." Alex's fists tightened. The scrapyard was full of broken things. But this was different. This was alive, and she had been left to fade away like a piece of scrap no one wanted. For a moment, Alex's old instincts kicked in. The smart thing would be to leave her. He had survived this long by staying out of trouble. And this was trouble with a capital T. But another voice inside him, one that had been quiet for years, spoke louder. It told him that if he walked away now, he would never forgive himself. "I can't leave you here," he said finally. Her eyes flickered with something almost like disbelief. "Why?" she asked. Alex didn't have a perfect answer. "Because you're alive," he said simply. "And that should mean something." He slid his old tool bag off his shoulder and began pulling out a folded sheet of thermal fabric. He wrapped it gently around her, careful not to move her legs too much. The cold had seeped deep into her skin, and he could feel her trembling through the fabric. "You're going to be okay," he said, even though he wasn't sure if it was true. Alex looked toward the distant ridge. If he could get her to his hidden workshop in the ruins of the old human sector, he might be able to keep her safe, but the journey would be risky. The scrapyard was a maze of collapsed machinery, unstable walkways, and sharp drops, and worse. The alien patrol sometimes swept this area if they found him carrying her there. Would be no escape, he spotted his hovercart, half buried under a pile of scrap. It wasn't meant to carry passengers, just junk. But it would have to do. Carefully, he slid his arms under her shoulders and knees. She was lighter than he expected, almost weightless, still. Every step he took made the metal under his boots groan and shift. Lyra's breathing quickened as he placed her onto the hovercart. Her fingers clutched weakly at the edge. Alex gave her a small nod. "Hold on," he said. The cart's engine hummed to life with a shaky vibration. The sound was louder than he liked. Too loud for a place where silence could mean safety. They started moving, weaving between tall stacks of broken starship hulls and piles of shattered android limbs. Every corner felt like it could be hiding eyes. Alex's heart pounded with every turn. The air seemed to thicken, as if the scrapyard itself was holding its breath. Then, in the distance, he saw it. A flicker of blue light. His stomach dropped. Patrol drones. They were sweeping the far end of the scrapyard, their scanners. Slicing through the dark like knives, Alex pushed the cart faster. Lyra's eyes widened, but she didn't speak. The hum of the cart grew louder, and the sound of the drones echoed closer. He turned sharply into a narrow path between two collapsed towers of scrap. Metal scraped the sides of the cart, sending sparks into the air. For a moment, the path seemed endless. Then, just ahead, he saw an opening, a shadowed tunnel made from a fallen transport ship. If they could get inside, they might be able to avoid the drones entirely. Alex took a deep breath, pushed harder, and they slipped into the darkness. The sound of the drones faded slightly, replaced by the low creak of the ship's rusting frame. They were hidden for now. Alex slowed the cart and glanced back at her. She was watching him with a look he couldn't quite read. It wasn't fear, it wasn't trust either, but maybe. The beginning of it, neither of them knew it yet. But this small act, this choice to not walk away, had already set both their fates on a path that would change everything. The tunnel was dark, the air heavy with the smell of dust and old metal. Alex stopped the hovercart in a quiet corner where the patrol drone's lights could not reach. The faint hum of the cart's engine slowly faded, leaving only the distant groan of the scrapyard shifting in the wind. Lyra lay wrapped in the thermal fabric, her breathing uneven. Alex crouched beside her, checking her pulse the way he'd seen medics do back in the human camps. It was weak, but steady. For a moment, they just stared at each other in the dim light. Alex could feel a question pressing against his lips. He wanted to know why her family had abandoned her, but the words felt heavy. Instead, he simply said, "You should drink this," handing her a small bottle from his pack. Her hands trembled as she tried to take it. Alex steadied the bottle for her, letting her sip slowly. The water seemed to give her a little strength, enough for her to finally speak more than a few words. "My name is Lyra," she said softly. Her voice still carried that alien rhythm, a mix of melody and sharpness. "Alex," he replied. She nodded faintly. "You want to know why?" she said. Not as a question, but as a statement. Alex didn't deny it. He waited. Lyra's eyes drifted away, as if looking far beyond the walls of the tunnel. "My people. We are taught that strength is everything," she began, "in our families. There is no room for weakness, no space for those who cannot fight or work." Her tone was calm, but the faint tremor in her voice betrayed something deeper. She told him about her homeworld, a place of endless glass plains and towering crystal cities. A place where the sky shimmered with two suns, where families were not built on love or kindness, but on power and achievement. Children are trained from birth to serve the family's honor. She continued, "Some become warriors, others become leaders. Some are chosen to explore the stars." She paused, her breath catching slightly. I was chosen to fight. Alex could almost picture it. The elegant silver buildings, the strange alien warriors training under the twin suns, but that image shifted when her voice darkened. There was a battle. Against humans, she said, her eyes narrowing for a moment. It was not my first battle, but it was my last. She told him how her unit had been sent to capture a human outpost. The fight had been brutal, explosions tearing through the air. Energy weapons slicing across the field. She had been fast, skilled, but then something went wrong. A blast hit near her, not enough to kill, but enough to crush the lower part of her body under debris. She remembered the pain, the cold, the sound of her own voice calling for help, and she remembered the faces of her family. As they arrived, they looked at me, she said, her voice breaking for the first time. But they didn't see their daughter, their sister, their blood. Her eyes glistened faintly in the dim light they saw. A burden, Alex's jaw tightened. She told him how they pulled her from the battlefield only to leave her in the scrapyard, a place where no one would find her, or so they thought. They believe that if you cannot stand, you are already dead, she said bitterly. In their eyes, I am no longer one of them. For a long moment, the tunnel was silent. Alex didn't know what to say. He had seen cruelty before in the camps, in the streets of the ruined human cities, but this was different. This was cruelty from blood, from family. Something inside him stirred, a deep anger at people he had never met. You were in a war against us, Alex said quietly. Lyra's eyes met his, sharp but not hostile. Yes, she admitted. I was trained to see your kind as enemies. Her gaze softened just slightly. But now? One of you is the only reason I am still alive. That simple truth hung between them like a fragile thread. Alex could feel the weight of it. Trust was rare in this world, rarer still between human and alien. But maybe, just maybe, something was shifting. He leaned back, resting against the cold wall. What will you do if you get better? He asked. Lyra's answer came after a long pause. I don't know, she said. I cannot go back to my family, and I cannot return to my people without them seeing me as weak. Her voice grew softer. Maybe. I will simply try to live. Alex nodded slowly. Living sounded like a small thing, but here, in the shadow of the scrapyard, it felt like a battle in itself. And for the first time since he'd found her, Alex felt that helping her wasn't just an act of mercy. It was the start of something neither of them could fully understand. The sound of the wind outside grew louder, carrying a faint metallic hum. Alex's eyes narrowed. The patrol drones were moving again. They couldn't stay here much longer. He stood, gripping the hovercart's handles. We're leaving, he said. Lyra didn't argue, somewhere deep inside. She felt it too. Their story was only just beginning. The wind outside the tunnel had changed. It carried a sharper edge now. And with it came a faint hum that made the metal walls vibrate. Alex recognized the sound instantly. Patrol drones. They were closer than before, moving in a slow, sweeping pattern through the scrapyard. It was only a matter of time before they reached this sector. He looked at Lyra, still wrapped in the thermal fabric, her breathing steadier now, but her body weak. If they stayed here, the drones would find them. If they moved, they risked making noise. Either way, it was a gamble. Alex tightened the strap of his tool bag and gripped the hovercart handles. We can't wait, he said in a low voice. Lyra's eyes flicked toward the tunnel entrance. You know what will happen if they catch you with me, she said quietly. Alex didn't answer. He didn't need to. They both knew the truth. The patrol wouldn't just arrest him. They would erase him. Wipe his record, his name, his existence. As if he had never been born, he pushed the cart forward, the small hum of its engine blending with the creaks of the old metal walls. The tunnel led to a narrow path between two mountains of scrap. Tall shadows leaned over them like watchful giants. Alex kept to the edges, using the piles as cover. Every few steps, he froze. Listening, the hum of the drones was still there. Sometimes louder, sometimes softer. It was like playing a deadly game of hide-and-seek. Lyra's gaze swept the shadows ahead. Her people's senses were sharper than human ones. "I hear two," she whispered. "One to the east. One moving closer from the north." Alex changed direction, steering the cart down a sloped path littered with broken panels. The wheels bumped and rattled, sending sharp echoes through the narrow space. He winced and slowed down. Noise was their enemy now. A faint blue light flashed against the scrap tower to their left. Alex's pulse spiked. He pulled the cart behind a huge rusted ship engine and crouched low. Through the gaps in the scrap, he saw the drone glide past, its scanners sweeping back and forth. It paused for a second, the hum rising in pitch as if it sensed something. Alex held his breath. Even Lyra stayed perfectly still. After a long, tense moment, the drone drifted away, disappearing behind a collapsed transport hull. They moved again, this time even slower. Every sound seemed magnified. The creak of metal under Alex's boots, the faint scrape of the cart against a pipe, Lyra's shallow breaths. Above them, the sky was fading from red to a deeper shade. Night was coming, and with it would come the cold. That meant fewer drones. But more scavengers, and scavengers in the scrapyard were not always human. Halfway to the ridge, Lyra spoke again, her voice barely a whisper. "Why are you risking this?" Alex kept his eyes forward, steering the cart around a heap of shattered drone parts. "Because you asked for help," he said simply. "That's all?" She asked, her tone unreadable. "That's enough," he replied. The path narrowed ahead, forcing them to pass under a leaning stack of scrap that looked like it could collapse at any moment. Alex hesitated, then pushed forward. The metal groaned. Above them, dust falling into his hair. He kept his pace steady. Too fast, and they'd make noise. Too slow, and the whole stack might shift. They reached the other side just as a sharp clink echoed behind them. A metal bar slid loose from the pile and crashed to the ground. The sound rang out like a signal. Almost immediately, the hum of a drone grew louder. Alex swore under his breath and pushed the cart faster. The drone's lights swept over the path behind them. Its hum deepened. It had found something. Alex turned sharply down a side path, weaving between old transport crates. Lyra's hand gripped the side of the cart tighter. "They're following us," she said. "I know." Alex replied. The side path opened into a wider clearing. At the far end, Alex spotted a half-buried service hatch. Its cover tilted at an angle. If they could get inside, it might lead to the old underground tunnels, places the drones rarely scanned. But the hatch was 20 meters away, and the clearing was open. No cover, no shadows. It was a straight run or nothing. Alex took a breath. "When I move." "Hold on," he said. Lyra's eyes met his. She didn't ask what would happen if they didn't make it. He pushed the cart hard, the hover motor whining louder. The sound drew the drone's attention instantly. Its light flared brighter, its hum rising like an alarm. Alex ran, boots pounding against the gravel, the cart bouncing over uneven ground. The beam of blue light swept toward them. Catching the back of the cart, a warning tone screeched from the drone. They were seconds away from being caught. The hatch loomed ahead. Alex reached it, kicked the cover aside, and shoved the cart forward. The opening was just wide enough for the cart to drop through. He followed, pulling the hatch shut above them just as the drone's light flashed over the spot. Darkness swallowed them. Only the sound of their breathing filled the space. Alex leaned against the wall, chest heaving. They were safer now, but both of them knew the risk had only just begun. The hatchway led them into a narrow underground corridor. It was colder here, the air damp and smelling of rust and stale water. Alex switched on a small handlight from his tool bag, its beam cutting through the shadows. The walls were lined with old cables and broken pipes, relics from when this place had once been part of a functioning transport network. Lyra's eyes adjusted quickly to the dim light. Her people could see better in the dark than humans. She scanned the corridor. Ahead, listening, they're not gone. She whispered. Alex nodded grimly. He could hear it too now, the faint, muffled hum above them. The drones were still searching, their sensors sweeping across the scrapyard. But worse than the hum was another sound, a sharper, metallic clatter echoing faintly through the tunnels, footsteps, and they weren't his. Alex slowed the cart. The noise was coming from somewhere ahead. He tilted the light downward, keeping it low so it wouldn't give them away. The footsteps grew louder, joined by the sound of something scraping against the wall. Lyra's fingers tightened around the edge of the cart. That's not a drone. She murmured. No, Alex said. That's a scavenger. Scavengers in the scrapyard were dangerous. Some were humans desperate enough to steal from anyone. Others were alien outcasts with nothing to lose. Many would trade a life for food, fuel, or favor. If this one saw Lyra, he wouldn't think twice before turning her in to the patrol. The reward alone would be worth more than a year of scavenging. Alex backed the cart slowly into a side tunnel. The walls here were tighter, the air thicker. He killed the light, letting darkness swallow them. The footsteps drew closer. A shadow passed by the entrance of their hiding spot for a moment. Alex could make out the figure, tall, wrapped in tattered gear, carrying a jagged metal spear. The figure paused, sniffing the air like a predator catching a scent. Alex's pulse thundered in his ears. Lyra held her breath after a long, tense moment. The scavenger moved on, disappearing into the dark. Alex waited until the sound of footsteps faded. Then he switched the light back on. We need to move, he whispered. Lyra nodded, her expression unreadable. He pushed the cart forward, choosing a route that sloped upward. If they could get to the old surface ramp, they might be able to exit far from the patrol search zone. The tunnel twisted like a snake, sometimes opening into wide chambers filled with rusted vehicles, sometimes narrowing so much the cart barely fit through. Every sound seemed louder in the dark. The scrape of metal, the hiss of steam from broken pipes, the soft hum of the hover motor. Alex kept his pace steady, but his mind was racing. Every second they spent down here increased the chance of running into something worse than drones. Halfway up the slope, the sound of the patrol hum returned, but this time it wasn't muffled. It was close, too close. Alex cursed under his breath. They've sent drones down here, he said. The glow of blue light flickered against the far wall. It wasn't just 1-2 drones were hovering in the tunnel ahead, their scanners sweeping left and right. Alex turned sharply into another side passage. The drone's pitch shifted. They had detected movement. The chase began. The narrow tunnel amplified the sound of the drones as they closed in. Their lights flickered across the walls, throwing long, warped shadows. Alex's boots pounded the ground, the cart jolting and rattling as they sped forward. Lyra's breathing grew faster, her hands gripping the cart's edge until her knuckles turned pale. The tunnel forked ahead. Alex took the left path without hesitation. The drones followed, their hum turning into a sharp, pitched whine, the sound of their pursuit mode. A flash of blue light grazed the back of the cart. Alex swore and ducked lower, pushing harder. The tunnel opened into a large chamber, filled with old shipping crates stacked like giant blocks. Alex weaved between them, trying to break the drone's line of sight. A sudden burst of light lit the chamber. One of the drones had moved ahead, circling to cut them off. Alex spotted a narrow gap between 2 crates and pushed the cart through. The sides scraped hard, sending sparks into the air. They emerged into another passage, this one sloping sharply upward. The air grew colder, fresher. They were nearing The surface, behind them, the drones didn't slow. One fired a stun pulse. The blue energy streaking past Alex's shoulder and exploding against the wall. The blast sent shards of metal flying, one grazing his arm. Pain burned through his sleeve. But he didn't stop. Another turn, another slope, and finally, a faint light ahead. The surface Alex pushed with everything he had. The hovercart wind, struggling against the incline. The drone's hum rose to a fever pitch. A second stun pulse flew past. This one close enough to make the cart's engine flicker. They reached the opening, bursting into the scrapyard's cold night air. Alex didn't stop to breathe. He steered the cart into a maze of twisted metal towers, vanishing into the shadows before the drones cleared the tunnel mouth. The chase had ended, for now, but Alex knew the patrol would not give up so easily. They had been marked, and the scrapyard was no longer just a graveyard of broken machines, it was a hunting ground. The night air was sharp against Alex's face. Each breath tasted of metal and cold. He guided the hovercart through the scrapyard's shadowed paths. Steering away from the drone patrol routes, Lyra lay still beneath the thermal fabric, her eyes open but quiet. The blue lines on her skin glowed faintly in the darkness, like cracks in porcelain lit from within. They moved in silence for a long time. Only the hum of the cart and the distant creak of shifting scrap broke the stillness. Finally, the twisted walls of junk gave way to a darker shape in the distance. An old, half-collapsed structure, a relic from when humans still had outposts here. Its roof was bent inward, but the walls stood strong. To most, it was just another ruin. To Alex, it was home. He pushed open a heavy metal door that screeched in protest. Inside, the air was warmer, carrying the faint scent of oil and metal dust. The space was cluttered, but organized, shelves stacked with tools, crates of spare parts, and a workbench covered in half-fried devices. A single generator in the corner hummed quietly, casting a soft orange glow across the room. "This is your home?" Lyra asked, her voice thin. "Yeah," Alex said. "It's not much, but it's safe." He wheeled the cart toward a low cot in the corner and helped her onto it. Her body was light but unsteady. She winced as her legs shifted, but said nothing. Alex grabbed a metal flask from the shelf and poured a warm liquid into a tin cup. "It's not great," he said, "but it'll help you get your strength back." Lyra sipped slowly, the warmth spreading through her. Her eyes moved over the room, taking in the strange human tools. The piles of scrap sorted into neat rows. "You live alone," she said. More as a statement than a question. "Yeah," Alex replied. Safer that way. She didn't ask safer. From what she already knew, instead, she watched as Alex knelt beside her. Pulling a small device from his bag, it was a mix of human and alien tech. Wires fused with glowing crystals. "What is that?" she asked. "A Medunit," Alex said. "Old model. But it can scan your injuries and maybe repair some damage." He ran the device over her legs. A faint blue grid appeared above her body, showing the fractures and nerve damage. Alex's brow furrowed. "It's bad," he said quietly. Lyra's expression didn't change. "I already knew that," she replied. He hesitated before speaking again. "I might be able to fix some of it, but it'll take time." "How much time?" she asked. "Days. Maybe weeks," Alex said. "And we'll have to be careful. The patrol might start sweeping deeper into the scrapyard." Lyra's gaze softened just slightly. "You're risking a lot for someone you barely know," she said. Alex shrugged. "I know enough," he replied. Hours passed as Alex worked on repairing a small energy heater and checking the Medunit settings. Lyra lay quietly, her eyes sometimes closing, sometimes watching him. There was something different about the way he moved, focused, precise. But always aware of her presence, it was as if he was building not just repairs, but trust. Later, as the heater filled the room with steady warmth, Lyra spoke again. When I was young, she began. I thought strength was about never needing anyone. Her voice was soft, almost distant. But now, lying here, I think maybe strength is also about knowing when to accept help. Alex looked up from the workbench. That's something a lot of people never figure out. He said they shared a brief, quiet look, the kind that didn't need more words, still. The calm didn't erase the danger. Every so often, Alex would pause, tilting his head as if listening outside. The wind carried distant sounds, a faint hum, the crunch of something moving over scrap. The world beyond these walls was still hunting them. Before turning in for the night, Alex checked the locks on the door twice. He placed a motion sensor by the entrance, a small device that would send an alert if anything crossed its beam. Lyra watched him with a mixture of curiosity and unease. "You've done this before," she said. "What?" "Kept someone safe." Alex's jaw tightened slightly. "Once," he said, "didn't work out." He didn't explain further, and she didn't ask. When the generator's hum became the only sound in the room, Lyra let her eyes close fully. For the first time in days, her body was not lying on cold metal. For the first time in days, she was not waiting for death, but sleep came slowly, even here, in this small, safe place. The memory of the scrapyard and the patrol's lights lingered in her mind. Alex sat at the workbench long after she slept. His hands worked on repairing a small handheld jammer, a tool that could scramble drone sensors for a few seconds. It wasn't much, but it might be enough when the time came. And deep down, he knew the time would come. Safe places in this world never stayed safe for long. The morning came slowly. Pale light filtered through the cracks in the old walls, mixing with the faint orange glow of the generator. Alex was already awake, sitting at the workbench, his eyes scanning a battered handheld scanner he had picked. Up something strange, a faint signal. It pulsed every few seconds, steady, deliberate. It wasn't from the patrol drones. It was stronger, more focused. It was coming from the scrapyard's outer ridge. Lyra stirred on the cot, her voice rough. "You're tense," she said. Alex looked at her. "They're looking for you." He replied, "Not just drones, this." Time a ship, her expression didn't change, but her eyes shifted slightly. "My family," she said quietly. "They know I'm alive." Alex didn't answer. The signal was getting stronger. They were getting closer. In a few hours, maybe less, the ship would be above them. It would send out search units, and if they found this place, it would be over. Alex set the scanner down and crossed the room. "You have two choices," he said. "Go with them, and maybe live in comfort again. Or stay with me and keep running." Lyra's gaze held his for a long moment. "Go with them," she said, her voice sharp now. "They left me to die, Alex. They'll only take me back if they can use me, maybe as proof they rescued me, maybe as a prisoner." Her hands clenched the thermal fabric tighter. "And they will not let you live if they find you here." Alex knew she was right, even if she went with them. He'd be a loose thread they would cut without hesitation. Still, there was another truth. Running from her family's reach would be nearly impossible. "They'll search everywhere," he said. "They'll put a bounty on me," she replied without hesitation. Her tone carried no fear, only certainty. The air in the room felt heavier now, outside. The faint hum of the ship's engines was starting to echo through the metal walls. It was still far, but the sound was unmistakable. Alex walked to the door and checked the motion sensor. Nothing yet, but soon there would be. Lyra shifted slightly, wincing as her legs moved. "You should leave me," she said suddenly. Her voice was calm, but there was something under it. "It's the smart choice. You can disappear. Start again." Alex shook his head instantly. "Not happening. I won't be the reason you're." "Not the reason," Alex interrupted, his tone firm. "This is my choice." They stared at each other for a moment. The hum of the ship outside growing louder. Finally, Lyra exhaled slowly. Then we need to move before they close in. Alex grabbed his bag, stuffing it with the jammer, spare food, and the portable medunit. He powered down the generator and disconnected the motion sensor. The workshop felt colder without the soft hum of the machines, like it already knew it would not see them again. They slipped out the back entrance. The hover cart glided silently over the gravel. The sky above was no longer just red. Now it held the shadow of the ship. Its sleek silver form cut across the clouds from its underside. Smaller craft were dropping. Search units, they fanned out across the scrapyard like metal birds hunting prey. Alex steered them toward the far ridge. The path was rough, littered with jagged metal and collapsed frames. Twice they had to stop so he could clear the way. The sound of engines and scanning beams filled the air. Once, a search unit passed close enough that Alex could see the pilot's face through the glass. Silver-skinned, cold-eyed, it didn't slow, but the sight sent a sharp chill down his spine. Halfway to the ridge, the jammer in his bag began to pulse. "They're scanning," Alex said. He pulled it out and activated it. A faint wave of static rippled through the air, distorting the sound of the search beams. It would buy them a minute, maybe two, not more. They reached the edge of the scrapyard where the ground sloped down toward the wasteland. If they could get across it, there were abandoned mining tunnels that could hide them for weeks. But before they could start down, a shadow fell across the ground. A search unit descended. Blocking their path, its engines roared, kicking up dust and scrap from its side door. Two alien figures stepped out, weapons in hand. One of them spoke. In a sharp, commanding tone, "Lyra of House Vera, you will come with us." Alex stepped in front of the cart. "She's not going anywhere with you," he said. The soldier's gaze slid over him like he was barely worth noticing. "You are human," the soldier said coldly. "You will step aside." Lyra's voice cut through the tension. "I will not return to those who left me to die," she said, her tone like steel. The soldier's eyes narrowed. "Then you will die here with him," one replied, raising his weapon. Alex didn't hesitate. He slammed his hand on the jammer, sending a burst of interference through the air. The soldiers staggered as their visors glitched. "Hold on!" He shouted to Lyra. He shoved the cart hard, sending it racing down the slope. Blaster fire cut through the air behind them, striking the ground and sending shards of metal flying. Alex didn't look back. The slope leveled out, and they disappeared into the wasteland's shifting heat haze. The ship above shrank slowly behind them. They were alive, for now, and though the future was still a storm of uncertainty, one thing was clear: neither of them was turning back.